Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new series, What If One Shots. Now, what does that mean exactly? Let me explain. I'll be doing a regular What Ifs every day as regular, but for smaller passion projects or user submitted ideas, a What If One Shot will be created. It's still going to be just as good quality, it's just going to be a little bit shorter and a little bit more concise. These will be uploaded randomly on the channel, and there will be a playlist below with all of them in it if you are interested. With that being said, let's get straight into what if Deku had a time control quirk. Deku was born to Inko and Hisashi Midoriya. He grows up normally. Bakugo would tease him for his lack of quirk, Deku being a late bloomer. At around the age of 5, Deku would be getting teased by Bakugo badly. He was sick of it. They'd been once friends, but he didn't feel anything but disdain for Bakugo anymore. For once, Deku decided to fight back. As he was getting beat up by Bakugo and his cronies, he closed his eyes. Inside of him, he feels a certain energy building. He suddenly opens his eyes. They glow a bright green, and a strange blast erupts from Deku, rushing and covering everything in an instant. Deku looks around. Everything looks frozen. He stands up, confused on what had just happened. He looks at Bakugo, clenching his fist. He would clock Bakugo in the face before running away at top speed. He makes it about 10 meters before a strange feeling hits him. The energy that erupted away from him suddenly rushed back into him. Time unfroze around him. Deku's nose bled as he ran, not even noticing that time had unfrozen. Bakugo and his goonies look to the floor, wondering where Deku was. They look around and point him out, wondering how the hell that happened. Deku rushes home and gets his quirk checked out by the doctor. The doctor sits Inko and Deku down and talks. Well, it looks like your Deku has a time quirk. He can create quote unquote time energy from within himself and release it to freeze time for himself. Quite the quirk if I do say so myself, kid. Deku looks at his hands. He didn't realize the severity of the words that were just spoken. A time quirk, and a good one at that. Deku and Inko rush home and Deku tries to activate it once again. Closing his eyes, he would try and feel the energy once again, but it was gone. He was confused, but shrugged it off. He was just happy he had a quirk. Deku returns to school the next day and Bakugo looks at him, walking up to him and asking what happened yesterday. Deku explains that his quirk finally manifested. A time quirk. He can stop time. The teacher overhears this and drops the coffee she was holding. Deku, did you just say you had a time quirk? Deku nods, closing his eyes and focusing. The energy would spark up once again. Not as much though. He released it. The class and teach look on as green energy emits from him. It shoots from him, Deku once again looking around before his classmates' expression. As time was stopped, he began feeling weird once again. Knowing he was at his limit, he ran to his desk and sat down. The energy quickly ran back into his body as time unfroze. The class looked around in shock, as Deku simply vanished from existence right in front of them. No noise, nothing but a green light. They look around, Bakugo pointing him out, sitting at his desk. They all smile and Deku is treated as a god around school. I mean, what can you do against someone who can stop time? Bakugo would slowly get jealous of Deku and resent him. Deku still kinda resenting Bakugo deep down. For the next 10 years, Deku would train his quirk by himself, trying to make it as good as possible for the hero course. The final day of school rolls around and Deku and Bakugo are once again called out by the teacher. Deku and Bakugo stared daggers at each other. They had both grown more than canon due to their almost bitter rivalry. They continue to stare as the bell rings. Deku smirks, sticking a tongue out at Bakugo before stopping time. He rushes to Bakugo, slapping him on the face before running away out of class. He runs away a different way than normal to not get found by Bakugo. Walking down a dirt path, time unfreezes around him, the energy being sucked back into his body. Bakugo stands pissed. Damn you, Deku! I'm gonna get you! Deku snickers and walks away, walking under a small tunnel. He looks down, thinking about how he can further apply his quirk. He gets lost in his own head, getting captured by the sludge villain. Deku once again stops time, opening his eyes and clawing out the sludge. He quickly thinks quickly and moves around as much as he can possible to free up some space. He then gets a little wiggle room, kicking violently with both legs. He would kick the sludge away, hopping out of the villain before time once again plays as normal. Deku, heavily fatigued by this, 2 time stops in such a short succession was dangerous. He books it, knowing what the villain could do and knowing what he can't do. Currently, his quirk could stop time for about 10 seconds at a time, and he can use it 3 times max before he faints. Oops. The villain shoots another tendril at him. Just give me your body, kid. Quit fighting it. Your teleportation quirk will be mine. Just as he says this, All Might jumps from the drain and smashes the villain into a million pieces. Deku would thank All Might and begin talking. Deku explains his quirk. All Might very impressed with this, wondering what he could do with one for all plus that. Deku and All Might collect the villain and All Might jumps away. Now, in this timeline, All Might jumps off and the villain once again falls out of his pants and grabs Bakugo. Deku making his way there almost off instinct, pushing to the front of the line he sees Bakugo's face, and the familiar rush of his energy from when he was a kid boiled back. Time froze around him, a small glow emitting from Deku before Deku rushed at top speed. The faces on the pros and the crowd just said it all. If he didn't do anything, something, Bakugo was good as dead. Deku yanked Bakugo out, rushing about 5 meters away from the villain with Bakugo in his hands before the energy returned to Deku's body. As if life returns, his eyesight goes completely black in an instant. Deku drops to the floor, dropping Bakugo as well, who was coughing up sludge and disoriented. Everyone looks on in shock, seeing what the hell just happened. All Might lacking cannon saves Deku. In this time, Deku gets one for all. All Might meeting with Deku after the incident and beginning their training right there and then. Deku only takes about 2 months to train on his beach. He had his quirk. As he had a quirk, he had to train himself to get accustomed to it as much more, which means his physical body would be stronger in this timeline. After 2 months, he inherits one for all, and the rest of the 8 months, Deku gets a handle on its power with a recovery girl on standby. Deku walked confidently through the gates of UA High School, sitting the theory exam and passing it easily, cheating when he wanted to, getting up and looking at Momo's sheet. He then walks to the prac exam site, getting ready at the front of the pack of students. The doors would open and Deku without hesitation goes on full cowling 30%, rushing into the middle of the exam site. Closing his eyes, he feels the energy once again, many times more powerful than before. He releases it. Time freezes. Deku moves like the Flash and stops time, poking and kicking the robots as he pleased. He destroys exactly 100 points worth of robots before deciding he was done. Walking back to the entrance, he would unfreeze time. The rest of the few students who had just ran through the gate meet him eye to eye, seeing the complete destruction of everything behind him. They're shocked. Deku just walks straight out, waving everyone goodbye. They have to redo the test the next day due to this, and Nezu gives Deku his acceptance early, asking for a meeting with him to talk about his quirk. They sit and talk, Nezu knowing Deku got one for all and seeing how much of an effect it had on his quirk. So young man, how long can you freeze time for? Deku replies, about a minute, give it or take, but if I move too much it shortens it a little. I need to learn to control myself first. Nezu was astounded. To do some testing with his quirk and find something interesting about it. The rest of the class arrives. Deku sleeping at his desk before Aizawa even arrives. No one talks to him. Not knowing who it was, ignore him. Aizawa shows up and they are told to meet outside for the quirk apprehension test. Deku smiles a little while looking at the desk, freezing time before running outside to the training area and sitting down. The rest of the class show up about 5 minutes later, wondering how he got there so fast. Deku shrugs and Aizawa throws him the ball. Bakugo looks pissed at Deku, wondering how he got there, running at him straight before Aizawa bitched him. Deku throws it up about 10 meters. As the ball falls back into his hand, he stops time, going 40% in his arm. He punches the ball about 4 times. Unfreezing time, the ball would cackle with energy and immediately shoot into orbit. Everyone is amazed. Bakugo wondering how the hell he got so strong. Deku placed first in his class, and easily, as a matter of fact. Classes then go on as usual. Deku sits bored in class on a regular day, once again thinking about how he can help his quirk. All Might would suddenly rush through the door like a normal person. Everyone's gassed. Even Deku, he didn't know he was teaching their class. All Might explains the exercise, and they start rushing down to the grounds, picking up their lots before the same is chosen as in canon. Deku decides to take a little easy on Bakugo, running up the stairs and coming straight into contact with him. Bakugo throws his signature right, which Deku slips and counters. Bakugo, winded by this, would send a huge explosion towards Deku. Deku, seeing this, stops time, looking at Bakugo and slapping him in the face once again, running behind him and throwing a couple liver shots and calf kicks before walking 10 steps away in unpausing time. Bakugo spits out blood and falls to one knee, seeing Deku behind him. He gets even madder, standing back up again before unremorsefully pulling the pin on the gauntlets. Deku sees a huge explosion coming towards him. On instinct, he puts 30% one for all and tanks a shot. Before he instinctively uses time stop, confused he looks around before shrugging and using it to his advantage anyway, running out of blast zone and slapping Bakugo once again before unfreezing time. Sick of it, Deku would chop Bakugo's neck and knock him out. He then helps Uraraka and secures the bomb in an overwhelming victory. All Might is proud, as is Aizawa. They hop onto the bus, making their way to the USJ. The class asks Deku about how his quirk works. Deku explaining. Class listens in intently as his explanation explains. Oh, the class listens in intently on his explanation, especially Aizawa. They all gawk at his quirk, how powerful it is. I mean, he could beat anyone like that. They make it to the USJ and hop off, starting the speech with Pro Hero 13. Deku listens to their boring ass speech, and we begin drifting off, being woken up by what seemed to be something coming out of the middle of the USJ. Deku and Aizawa look, and Aizawa jumps down, telling everyone to sit. Deku smirks and pauses time. Time stops around him. Deku cracks his knuckles and gets to work. Every small-time villain in front of him got a single 130% or for one for all smash they got. His time limit having 30 seconds. He rushed to the main villains, seeing a strange man holding, with a hand on his face, a big bird and a warp villain. Deku feels around the warp, finding a solid metal box within him. Deku would then send a couple of punches at this too, before taking one extra big punch at the Nomu. His time limit about to go off, Deku rushes back to the top of the USJ once again, standing back at his original spot once again. Time continues around him as a cataclysm occurs, all happening at once. Every small-time villain instantly falls to the floor. Koroguri is sent flying into the wall and Nomu is sent flying backwards. Everyone is astounded. What the hell just happened? Shigaraki looks around, trying to see who did that. Maybe someone who had a telekinesis quirk? Whatever it was dangerous. They immediately fled. All the small fly villains were captured, but escaped with the Nomu and Korogiri too. They would only get a couple of days off in this timeline, the whole issue borderline fixing itself. Deku was yanked into questioning by the police. He tells them the detailed description of every main villain there, noting the three special ones of importance. The police are happy with this, but worried about what's to come. They return to school and the UA Sports Festival is announced. Deku will get ready, training in the couple of days before physically being able to use One for All much more. The fest begins and Deku has made it to the 1v1 portion of the exam. He can pretty much teleport, so it's either both the cavalry and the obstacle course apparently won't be an issue. Deku will then begin the 1v1 portion of the exam. Deku versus Shinso. Now this is going to go a little different than in canon. Deku would stand there as Shinso hurled insults at him, not being too effective until he brought up his mama. Now, Deku stands on business. Deku doesn't play about his mama. He spoke back, "Ayo, nah!" His mind goes blank. He begins moving away from Shinso, straight out of bounds. Deku, lost in his own head, can't move. Much like in canon though, the previous wielders stop him, this time by forcefully activating his quirk. Time freezes around him. He looks around. What the hell? The previous wielders spirits talk to him. They explain the origins of One for All and the powers he will possess very soon. Deku thinks This is a lot to take in. Looking at all 7 of them, he snaps back to reality. Time unfreezes and a gust of wind blows against the sides of the arena. Deku's fingers broken like in cannon. Deku turns, this time rushing Shinson, throwing him out of bounds instantly. He then comes up against Todoroki. Now, this one he would need to take a little bit more serious. The round begins and Deku sees a geyser of ice coming towards him. He thinks about what to do before freezing time once again. He rushes towards Todoroki in the frozen time, deciding to show off a little. He would pick up Todoroki and place him on the sides of the ring, walking back to the middle once again before resuming time. Todoroki looks around, looking down, about to fall out of bounds. Deku smiles, stopping time again and picking Todoroki up, throwing him into the air. He would continue with this, playing with Todoroki before throwing him out of bounds. Now he doesn't give Bakuro the same satisfaction though, immediately stopping time as the bell rings and rushing Bakuro, kicking him straight out of bounds, no second chance. Deku gets first and everyone in his class hates him a little more for it. Now, all for one was watching this the entire time. He had heard what Shigaraki said about something happening to them, and he found out who did it. Now, internships. Deku in this timeline, due to already having full cowling, would internship with All Might himself to put on muscle as quickly as possible. Using the week to train himself more, he reaches up to 50% of One for All. He also tells All Might about the vestiges. Now he's about to get more powers. They both look on concerned. Skipping straight ahead to the 3rd day of the training camp, the villains once again attack the training camp, this time for another reason completely. Due to Deku interfering with the USJ incident so much, Shigaraki begins his operation much sooner than in canon, getting All for One himself out around this time. All for One would have been watching the UA Sports Festival, figuring Deku's powers out very quickly. He instantly becomes infatuated with his quirk, wanting it for himself. Due to the two meeting so perfectly, All for One sends Shigaraki to the camp as well. Deku would have to know there was villains coming. A strange pain shooting through his head told him so. He would straight away warn the teachers, stopping time and rushing around 50%. He finds the villains and takes care of them, quickly rushing back to where Koda was. In this time, he runs out of time and he comes face to face with Shigaraki instead of Muscular. Once again, a splitting pain takes over his head. He instinctively stops time again. Knowing something was up, he unleashes a flurry of attacks at Shigaraki. Shigaraki's top half explodes into blood, subtly reforming in front of Deku. Deku eyes widen as Shigaraki rushes at Deku, throwing a fist into his gut and sending him flying. This was the first time Deku had felt a pain like that, ever. He slowly gets up, about to jump off. His head once again feels a splitting pain. He turns behind him, a man in a suit standing right there. His hand already fully extended, about to make contact. Deku freezes time once again, knowing he's about to hit his limit. He rushes away, running back to the teachers once again. He makes it there and unfreezes time. He falls to his knees before once again. Aizawa rushes to his side, Deku looking up to meet his gaze, but is met with another instead. The same masked man, and a hand on his face. He feels himself leaving, his essence being sucked up. Deku looks worried, kicking and scratching, but nothing works. He drops limp to the floor, All for One floating into the air, clapping. Well, well, well. What a send-off to Zuku Midoriya. You could have done so much more. It was a true shame. And, well, you can already imagine where that ends off. Like, they're cooked. There's nothing they could do. It's GG. Anyway, if you like this video, please check out some more stuff and like and subscribe. Gotcha.